How was Pete? I mean, Pete's had a crazy rise and, public life and all that shit. I thought you guys had like an unbelievable rapport. Did you know him beforehand through comedy or anything, or was that the first experience you had?
Yeah, I met, believe it or not, I met Pete. I was doing, Jim Norton put together this tour, which I swear to God, this was a show. It was unbelievable. It was called the Antisocial Network Tour, and it was Jim Norton, Dave Attell, Jim Brewer, and myself.
Wow.
So I used to watch all three of those because I'm a huge fan of all of those guys. And like, when I first came to New York, Jim Brewer and Dave Attell, they were like gods. And like I remember there was a couple guys like Pete Corielli used to go on the road with Brewer, and I remember thinking like, wow, man, he knows those guys. It was an amazing thing. So just to be on it was incredible. So anyway, so we did the tour, and I was down in Atlantic City, and of course, the day of that, the fucking Patriots played the Jets and lost at home that game.
Good. Fuck.
Then all these guys in the front row had Jets jerseys on, man. I got trashed doing that show. So I'm coming out the next day out of the lobby, out of the hotel lobby there, whatever casino where you're at. And I was like ducking out, trying to make sure I don't get trashed by Jet fans. And this woman came up to me with this tall, skinny kid. And she's just going like, we thought you were so funny last night. This is my son. He wants to be a comedian. And he was just kind of standing there, right? And I never forgot him. He just, I guess, when you're like...
he's 9 feet tall, right?
Well, he also has like that, he has that it thing that they say in the business. He just has it. And I remembered it. And I was like, yeah, she said she already driven him to his first open mic. So I was like, I said, hey, man, you're doing it right. I didn't start till I was like 23, almost 24. It's a young man's game. He asked me a couple questions, I think. He was really like sort of awkward and shy or whatever. And then years later when I met him, he goes, I don't know if you remember this. And he started telling a story. I go, outside the elevator, that tall, skinny kid, that's you. He's like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we always kind of had that cool thing. And as he, rose up so fast, I think I got to know him, like I got to really know him after he got on like SNL and stuff. And like he started selling tickets and stuff. And I was in New York or something, and he was asking me questions, because promoters try to steal from you and all of that, like,
The ins and outs of the business.
Yeah, that's it. So we kind of got to know each other that way. He did a Patrice O'Neill. He did one of the benefits for that. And I just, he just was always like, and I remember when I watched him doing stand-up, his poise and what he was talking about really impressed me. And so I was like, all right, this guy, it's all if they stick with it, if they have the work ethic, you don't get sidetracked and all. Like, this guy is going to be, he's going to be a force.
You were talking about earlier with like the nerves of, Marissa Tomei, First Kiss and all that, having to do that on top of having to like act someone's real life or semi-real life. Like that must have been really weird to have to do that. I remember in the movie Honey Boy, Lucas Hodges says with like Shia LaBeouf, he was like kind of asking for permission to like go to certain levels. Was there ever any of that with you? Where you're like, I don't know if I should say this because it's like, his real life.
Yeah, there was a couple jokes talking about Pete's character's dad, the one who died in the hotel fire, not his real dad.
Right.
So there's a couple jokes where I was kind of like, I don't know if my character could say that, and Marissa's character would still like me. And then most of it was the firehouse stuff. And that was the stuff where it was like, we went, one day we all met all the people that worked with Pete's dad. And we went down to the firehouse where he was at, and they had all the 9/11 stuff up on the wall, and they had pictures of his dad and all that. And then I was just like, oh my God, what have I got myself into?
That's no joke.
I have to do this justice.
Yeah.
So there was like, the cool thing about firemen is they bust balls the way comedians do. Yeah. So there was a couple, there's a number of, aside from Steve Buscemi, who actually was a firefighter before he became an actor, there was a number of people on the show, Mario, John Sorrentino, just really that actually, John actually knew Pete's dad, was in the firehouse at some period when his dad was over there. I can't quite remember, but like he was a guy those were the guys I was always going over to. Was like, does that sound right? Does that sound like real? They're like, great. Or like, do it more like this, or don't put the mask on like that. Don't go like this. Yeah, you're a boss, so you sit there and you do all this, the whole firehouse etiquette. And I would just sit there listening. You know what I mean? I mean, it was definitely more than just growing the big stupid mustache. I just would have looked like me with a mustache. So
definitely looked the part, like, in the scenes where you're in action and shit, you got the gear on and everything. It was like, as far as I know,
that was the hottest fucking day I knew it was going to be of the summer.
Yeah.
It was just like the way they lined it up. It was the last week of July. Last week of July, we're going to shoot the fire in the Bronx. I'm like, all right. So I remember the day before wasn't that hot. And we were driving up to block the scene. You know what I mean? So we all knew what we were going to do. So the next day when we put on all of that shit. But I have to say, they went out of their way with like the mobile air conditioners and all that type of shit. I can't imagine like, and what's so funny, it was a Hollywood fire. So you do a couple of takes and be like, oh, give me the I don't know how these guys really do it because that equipment is so fucking heavy. It's ridiculous. So me and Dom drove up. I remember smoking a cigar in his car on the way up, just laughing, talking about how great our lives were. And we're actually getting paid on the clock driving. We'd shot something in the morning out in Staten Island. And then we were heading up to the Bronx where we were going to shoot the fire scene. And we had a great time. I mean, all those people that I worked with, Hank, Giselle, all of those guys that played the firefighters, it was great. We just, after a while, it was kind of became like we were just all busting chops anyway. Giselle was another one who was a actual firefighter. So it just became like this amalgam of firefighters and actors, all, and stand-up comics, all just giving each other shit. So we would just be giving each other shit before the camera rolled, during, and then after. Jimmy Tatro was unreal. I'm trying to remember everybody's name. I should have had all this stuff in front of me, but it was awesome, dude.